Hunter Biden under investigation for money laundering. The state of Texas sues over election fraud allegations. Did Swalwell become a Chinese influence agent? And a new study on indoor COVID spread. Not good. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show. Oh, here we are. What has it been? About a month and change since the election. We'll call it about 6 weeks, something like that. 5 weeks since the election. And we find out that something that came up in the days before the election that we were not allowed to say, that was being intentionally suppressed by social media, was in fact true. Hunter Biden is officially, by his own admission, under investigation by federal prosecutors who are looking at his foreign ties and possible money laundering. And where do we think some of those foreign ties may be? China. That's right. Starting to see the Democrat Party was doing a whole smokescreen operation for 4 years. Yes, they were attacking Trump on Russia, but their Russia fixation seemed to also serve the very useful additional purpose of preventing people from paying more attention to very high-level Democrat connections to our true national security threat, our true economic challenger, the People's Republic of China. And here is Politico with the piece. The federal investigation into President-elect Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has been more extensive than a statement from Hunter Biden indicates, according to a person with firsthand knowledge of the investigation. On Wednesday, Hunter Biden said he had been contacted about a tax investigation of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware. In addition to Delaware, the Securities Fraud Unit in the Southern District of New York also scrutinized Hunter Biden's finances, according to the person with direct knowledge of the investigation. The person said that as of early last year, investigators in Delaware and Washington were also probing potential money laundering and Hunter Biden's foreign ties. The person spoke on the condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to discuss, yada, yada. Okay. In addition to the probe into Hunter Biden, federal authorities in the Western District of Pennsylvania are conducting a criminal investigation of a hospital business in which Joe Biden's brother, James, was involved. Federal officials have asked about James Biden's role in the business, according to a second-hand blah, blah. Okay. There is no indication Joe Biden himself is under investigation, but this could complicate his presidency and shine an unflattering light on his relatives' dealings. You don't say. This is the best the Democrats could do? Really? Here we are, and this is not a Russia collusion fairy tale. This is not something that was cooked up by a bunch of unethical journos at the New York Times or James Comey and some other smug weirdos at the DOJ. This is real. Here we are, just a month or so past the election. Still have challenges in the courts, I know, but the election day has come and gone. And now they're like, yeah, it turns out Hunter Biden is under serious criminal scrutiny right now. I thought Joe Biden was going to restore honor and dignity to the White House. That's what they told us. I thought that Joe Biden was a totally straight shooter. I thought that Joe Biden was somebody that he didn't have to worry about. Good old Scranton Joe, blue-collar Joe, who's been living in multi-million-dollar houses, despite being a public servant his entire adult life, pretty much. He's been living in multi-million-dollar houses for the last 40 years. But, you know, blue-collar Joe, sure. Sure he is. Now, this is where there's so much that I want to jump into here. Let's start with this. The media actively lied to the American people right before the election. We need to understand that. The Democrat-aligned mainstream media, 95% of Democrats supporting and voting, and the independent journalists they're registered independents, but they're all Democrats. That's just a game they play. They did more than just support their guy. They lied about information of the public interest, in order to make sure that there would be an outcome that they desired. That was what it was. And the social media companies now work hand in glove with the mainstream media. You know, they're essentially just an extension of it, although really they're more powerful than the mainstream media. Google, Facebook, Twitter, they can kill any media outlet they want to. They can throttle you, shut you down, cut off your funds, cut off your reach, you're done. What are you going to do? You're going to go to askjeeves.com? Good luck. So what do we make of this? The people who were lecturing us for 4 years about the need to protect our sacred democracy, the people who have been claiming that the big threat to our future was Donald Trump lying, he lies. That's what they always said. They all lied to you. They were all either actively engaged in or complicit in this lie, which I got to be honest with you. I've told you all along, I don't think that this was necessarily going to be the end for the Biden campaign. But then again, we didn't really know whether there was money laundering tied to all of this, too. It's one thing to say Hunter Biden is involved in sleazy dealings. It's another thing to say he could be a felon involved in hiding money that's getting paid to him by agents of the People's Republic of China. That's a bit more. That's an escalation. Right? Getting paid a little bit on the side is one thing. Being a convicted felon would be another. The media lied to you. They actively work to suppress the truth because they think they know better than you about who should be president of the United States. The media lied to you. All right, so we start with that. It's so funny, too, now they're like, oh, yeah, underreported story, they're saying, or, didn't get that much attention. These are the news outlets saying it. I remember when it was, oh, this is all a lie. Think about the Hunter Biden story, the progression. At first, it was fake news, they said. At first, there was no Hunter Biden laptop. Then it was the laptop was stolen, and so therefore the information on it was inadmissible or something in a journalistic sense. Then it was, oh, it was hacked, which all these things were not true. And then it was, oh, there's really nothing there. There's nothing on the laptop, nothing to see here. And now it's, oh, yeah, it turns out the laptop was real. It wasn't stolen. It wasn't hacked. It was 100% true. And there is a federal money laundering investigation into who the media is calling the president-elect's son. He's not the president-elect until the Electoral College meets. That is actually the process. They can say this all day, but it does not actually change the truth, right? This would be like saying, well, we don't actually have to say that there's, this guy's an alleged murderer. We'll just say he's a murderer in the press because, that alleged thing, let's skip past the jury trial. No, I say no. I say we have these rules for a reason. And if you're going to ask us to respect some parts of the process, you can't then discount others. But of course, that's what the media does all the time. Show us your principles, they say to conservatives, when it's in the interests of the left and the Democrats, when it advantages them to pretend that they also have principles. And then we see them abandon any principle at the moment that they think that is helpful. We're not supposed to notice this. Oh, what are they going to say now? Hunter Biden is not a problem for Joe Biden. Remember, it wasn't just that Hunter Biden was doing this. Wasn't Hunter Biden got caught, selling weed at a party or something. This guy's a 40-something-year-old man, and he was leveraging his dad and including his dad in these discussions to get rich. And he's a total screw-up, this guy. We all know that. Everyone knows that. Even his dad knows that. So we know that he's not some criminal genius or something. It's not like he covered his tracks well. So if they look into this at all, it's very likely that they'll find out that there were some problems here. But do I think they'll really look into this? I've already had some friends reaching out and asking, do you think that a Joe Biden DOJ would even begin a serious investigation or allow the continuation of a serious investigation of possible money laundering of the president's son? The answer is no. And I know people don't want to hear that. I know we want to think that the system isn't that rotten or that corrupt. I'm here to tell you the Democrats have made it that rotten and corrupt. That is where we are now. Look at Russia collusion. They are promoting people in the media and in government from the Obama era now who were big Russia collusion hoaxers. If you were a Russia collusion PP tape truther, you have benefited from that because the whole point of it was the smear, the sliming, the attack on Trump. It wasn't about defending our democracy. Nobody really believes that because nobody really thought that there was Russia collusion. At least nobody was moderately intelligent, but they pretended. Okay, yeah, we can run with this. We'll do this story night after night after night. The first 3 years of the Trump presidency were dominated by a story in the media that was a lie. That they pretended to be just, oh, we're serious journalists and we're looking into this. Absolutely not true. The whole thing was a fraud. The moment you understand that we are now in an information environment of warring propaganda machines, you start to see everything more clearly. If you are not a polemicist these days, you are controlled opposition for the other side. That's where we are. You're either fighting against this or you're not worth people's time with what you're doing, right? You're either taking a stand against the leftist Democrat media collective, or what are you really doing? I'm talking about for people in the media, not for everybody. And so this is where we find ourselves. This is where we are. People ask me, what should be done now? Do I think a Hunter Biden investigation would be allowed to continue under Joe Biden? Absolutely not. They'll shut it down. Bill Clinton lied under oath as clearly as anyone can lie about anything. Never even faced a criminal charge. Didn't have to pardon himself. Didn't matter. Does anyone really think that it'll be different under a Biden administration? After all the lectures we got about our sacred democracy from these Democrats, you think they're going to change? Absolutely not. So what can we do? Other than point out the lies, other than try to shame them, they won't be shamed into honor or decency, but they should be shamed anyway. And the media is atrocious in this country. It's a disgrace. But what else can we do? Appoint a special counsel. President Trump is the president. Attorney General Bill Barr is the head of the Department of Justice. This is a perfect example of where we need a special counsel because this investigation is going to be fraught with political pressure and considerations. So we need someone brought in from the outside to have full autonomy to investigate Hunter Biden and his associates up to and including Joe Biden if and when he becomes president of the United States. Why not? Someone explain to me why we should not do this. Oh, because it's mean? Because it'll make the Democrats have the SADs? It's an even better reason. Look at what they did to us. If they get away with this, and they're on the edge of getting away with it, if they do, they will do it again, and they will have benefited from it. Maybe it's time we start fighting fire with fire. A special counsel on Hunter Biden sounds like a great idea to me. This holiday season, it's not as easy as it usually would be to see people. Some folks are going to want to keep their distance because we know things are challenging right now, right? So what's a way you can reach out, bring some cheer, bring some holiday love, smiles, and hugs to people without actually being able to hug them necessarily? Bloomsy Box. I've sent Bloomsy Box flowers to my girlfriend. I've got them going to family members. They're amazing. These are fresh cut flowers right from the farm, and they get sent to your home or to the home of a loved one. And that's a great way to reach out over this holiday period and show you care. It'll really brighten up their day, give them a great smile, and tell them you're thinking about them, even if you got to be a little far away during this holiday season. So go to bloomsybox.com. Use the promo code BUCK. I'll get you 15% off with that promo code. Bloomsybox, BLOOMSY box.com. That's bloomsybox.com. Promo code BUCK will get you 15% off and only 7 days left to have your flowers arrive by Christmas, so order today.
Was how much we all said the same thing. We were a lot of people from different countries talking about freedom of the press in their country, in Europe and in Asia and in Africa, and Donald Trump has had a very, very corrosive effect on the freedom of the press. I used to say in the beginning in 2017 that this was just rhetoric. But the fact is that he's called us the enemy of the people. And the term fake news has been repeated by 50 presidents, prime ministers, and other national leaders around the world, and it's become a calling card for authoritarians. And so I do think there's been a very corrosive effect. But I would like to say that I think that at least in this country, our system has the system is held in terms of democracy. The press has done its job. The courts, the separation, that the courts have done their job. So I am not as, negative and pessimistic as some of my colleagues internationally.
That's what you'll hear over at MSNBC. I wanted you to get to listen to that drivel because that's a pretty good summation. The libs, the journos are lunatics. I mean, they're completely deranged. They think they've done their job. Oh, I'm sorry. The suppression of speech that is going on that's coming from social media, is that something that they talk about? Do they fight against that? They have no problem with it. They are in cahoots. They are a part of this. They are the authoritarians. That is the tragic irony of this whole situation. We all see it. Yes, the press did their job by lying to the American people about Russia collusion for 3-4 years now. That's their job. They have no credibility. They show no ethics, no decency. They never apologize. It's just creating this frothy mouth rage machine of anti-Trumpism. That's what they did. When she says we did our job, you know what she's really saying? Yeah, because we think Trump lost the election now. That is, in the journo's view, their job. Their job was not to present the American people with facts. You know, they talk about democracy in the media all the time, and they talk about free speech. They're enemies of free speech. And journalism as a profession is actually the enemy of the American people right now. It's true. Because they're liars, and there's no accountability. And what they do is disgusting. But when she says that they accomplished their mission, unfortunately, or did their job, unfortunately, from the perspective of a leftist, there's some truth to that. Because here we are, still fighting it out over this election, still wondering if we're able to get some justice here. And the journos are all saying, well, we weren't able to do it in 2016, but we rebounded and got it done in 2020. Does anyone really doubt that they found their purpose to be destroying Donald Trump and stopping him from having 4 more years? They suppressed the Hunter Biden story. The reason fake news resonates so much, and let's remember, they were the ones, the elite journos were the ones that popularized the term fake news, because their whole initial pitch was that Trump voters are so dumb, they believe all the fake news stories from Russia online. And then Trump said, no, you are the fake news. Completely turned it around. It was actually one of the most brilliant things he did in his presidency. He took their weapon and used it against them. And they hate him for it. They absolutely hate him for it. And now they want to tell you that, what? They're going to speak truth to power if and when there's this Biden presidency, which is going to be just a joke. This guy Joe Biden he's a clown. I don't care if he ends up being president, I don't care. He's still B team. Always will be. Nothing impressive about this guy. Nothing worthwhile about his leadership or his vision. Just a guy who shows up and does what he's got to do. Whatever that took, saying whatever he had to say, shilling for the credit card companies out of Delaware for a long time. And now he's supposed to be some man of the people who unites us and brings us all together. Just wait until they shut down the Hunter Biden investigation. You know what they're going to say? If there's a Biden administration, they shut down the Hunter Biden probe. I can assure you, I already know what the talking point will be. But Trump pardoned people, and Trump is so bad, and Trump, orange man bad. That's all they'll say. They won't even be able to connect the dots with, wow, so Biden's actually really corrupt. I learned recently about home title theft, and this is a crime that you really want to avoid at all costs because it goes after your most valuable asset, your home. But the usual identity theft services don't protect you. You need to learn about what this is, and then you can take the steps to protect yourself. That's why you should go with Home Title Lock. But first, understand that what the bad guys do is they use a quitclaim deed after they find your home's title online, because it's there, it's in the cloud, it's on servers. They kick you off your own home's title. Then they take loans against your home, and you'll get often payment demands in the mail, perhaps even a foreclosure notice before you even know what's happened. HomeTitleLock.com can create a virtual barrier around your home's title. That's the way to protect yourself. It's how I protect myself. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code RADIO. That will get you 30 free days of protection, and you can check at HomeTitleLock.com to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection.
Well, firstly, I feel bad for the taxpayers in Texas that have to finance this ridiculous and frivolous lawsuit. We should note that AG Paxton, is a member of the Trump campaign, very involved with that. Also that he is currently under federal indictment for securities fraud and also being investigated by the FBI. So I see this more than anything as an effort to ingratiate himself to a man who could potentially provide him with a presidential pardon.
Yeah, that's what it is. Always. It's always angling for a pardon from Trump, isn't it? They're not even, the lib liars aren't even creative, are they? They just all repeat each other and think, we're so smart. They all repeat each other. They think that that's clever. You have 17 Republican attorneys general have already backed Trump in this lawsuit out of the state of Texas. So here's what it says. This is the New York Times version. Understand, this is supposed to be the way they write a news story. This is not the editorial page, but you really won't be able to tell the difference. Despite dozens of judges and courts rejecting challenges to the election, Republican attorneys general in 17 states on Wednesday backed President Trump in his increasingly desperate and audacious legal campaign to reverse the results. The show of support in a brief filed with the Supreme Court represented the latest attempt by Trump loyalists to use the power of public office to come to his aid as he continues to deny the reality of his loss with baseless claims of voter fraud. The move is an effort to bolster a lawsuit filed on Tuesday by the pro-Trump attorney general in Texas that seeks to delay the certification of the presidential electors in 4 battleground states that President Trump lost. So we shall see. Okay, that's the way the New York Times is just going all in with editorializing as a news story. Not a surprise there. Notice that lawsuits to Democrats. This is just one of many ways how we can establish that they don't have principles. They only have desires and wants, and they shift whatever principles they have or discard them in order to achieve those desires and wants. Here's what you should remember about all this. Democrats celebrated the usage of lawsuits and the federal bench, activist judges on the federal bench, constantly ensnaring and tangling up President Trump in every aspect of his agenda that they could with bad faith lawsuits and legal decisions. Right? Then when I say bad faith, you can tell because when the Ninth Circuit keeps doing something to stop Trump from doing something, right? They just, you know what's coming. And then the Supreme Court has to step in and say, no, you can't do that. No, that's not what the law says about the judges below them. The Obama appointees in particular on the Ninth Circuit. That's not good faith. That's abusing the process. But they loved lawsuits and judges and the law when they were, particularly when Trump had the House and the Senate. I'm just going to say it. Not enough done. Not enough done during that period. Tax cuts. Pretty much it. And guess what's going to happen if there's a Biden administration? The taxes go up. I know people don't like to hear this, but this is the truth. Didn't get enough done. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. One of them is really bad personnel at the top level of the new administration in 2016. Horrible, horrible people. And for anyone who's going to write me some email now and say, oh, that's not, yeah, really? You want to bring back Scaramucci and Omarosa and Rex Tillerson and yeah, that's the crew? I don't think so. There was a lot of time lost in that transition period and afterwards. Some of it was, of course, because of I understand the ambush by the Democrats and the Russia collusion truthers and going after General Flynn. But I'm going to tell you this much. If there's an incoming Biden administration, they're going to try to hit us day one with as much left-wing crazy stuff as they can get away with via executive order. Already seeing, and this also ties into the legal issues I was talking to you about, there are hundreds of migrants who are moving in a caravan from Honduras toward the U.S. southern border right now. Why do you think that is? Why would the caravans start up again? What has, in the minds of people in Central America, for example, and as well as other countries all over the world, because they don't talk about this that much in the news, but it wasn't just people from Central America during the border crisis under the Trump administration who were showing up. There were people from Pakistan. There were people from Haiti. There were people from China, people from all over the world showing up at the border saying, I'm fleeing oppression. They basically read, in some cases, actually reading it off a little piece of paper. I'm fleeing oppression. I want asylum in your country. And who are you fleeing? What oppression do you have to? I'm fleeing oppression. That's all they know. That's all they have to say. Okay, I guess you passed the credible screening test. Let's let you into the U.S. But you're going to show up at your hearing, right? You're going to show up at your credible fear at your first immigration hearing to see if you actually get asylum. Oh, sure. Promise. We all know how that worked out. Why would a migrant caravan, this was an Associated Press story that I saw, start making its way to the southern border again? Because they know the first order of business for Democrats will be the elimination of the filibuster if they can get the majority. If they don't have the majority, and then there'll be all these other things that'll happen anyway. If they don't have the majority, the first order of business will be executive orders from Joe Biden. And among those executive orders will be immigration, the extension of DACA as a kind of permanent status, and they then will move toward amnesty. And once they get amnesty, you think that Texas is going to stay red if there's amnesty? Think about this. Think of all the states. Because after amnesty, you know what happens? The pathway to citizenship. Or maybe it's all at once. Maybe it's all together. Goodbye, Republican governance and administrations and all the rest of it. Those are the stakes right now. And people are coming to our southern border because they know that under a Biden administration, what they'll do is tell the public one thing is happening while the bureaucracy allows another thing to happen. That's what they'll do. And they'll say, oh, they're going to show up. I can tell you, when I was living in D.C., working at thehill.com, doing that show, Rising, we had all these debates, all these people showing up. And I had been down at the border a few times. I'd been talking to Border Patrol. And you'd have all these Democrat talking heads that would show up and say, everyone shows up for their hearings. There is no crisis at the border. They're all fleeing oppression. It was just a propaganda campaign. All lies. All lies. There was an exploitation of the goodness of the American people underway. We were allowing people to come here with under one set of rules, and the first thing they were doing was breaking those sets of rules. They weren't even willing to wait at the ports of entry. They would cross the border illegally, it is actually an illegal act, believe it or not. It's like federal trespassing to step across the U.S.-Mexico border. That itself is an illegal act. So they would do that so they could get arrested, and then they would claim asylum, and then they would hope to get lost in the court system, get a delayed hearing, or just not show up for the hearing. And if they show up for the hearing and the hearing goes against them for asylum, you know what happens next? They have to wait for a deportation hearing. How many people do you think show up for the asylum hearing, get denied, and then how many people show up for the deportation hearing, again, just to see if they can actually they've already been in the United States for months and months at that point, maybe a couple years. You think they're going to show up? But the propaganda machinery of the Democrats will kick into high gear in 2021 if Biden is calling the shots. Again, they're going to say, oh no, everyone showed. They're going to lie all over again. They want things that they believe are justified by the lies. It's not even really a lie because the Democrats think it's so important. That's their attitude. That is how they approach all of these things. So you should remember that as they seek to give us all lectures about how the press did their jobs and Trump was a threat to freedom of the press. How is Trump a threat to freedom of the press? By hurting their feels? By making them feel sad? What did he do? He made fun of some of them? The most insecure, vain, and often sociopathic people I've ever met, and often intellectually worthless, are national political journalists. Terrible, terrible people go into this profession. Lots of them. And they hate it when anyone points out, who are you? What are you doing? Your whole day-to-day of, I'm here to speak truth to power, is a fraud. We all know that, right? Do you think any of them, the New York Times, the Washington Post, they're going to speak truth to power in a Biden administration? Can anyone say that with a straight face? It's laughable. No one really believes that. But they'll say it. They'll say it anyway. And unfortunately, people with minds that are easily molded, the easily brainwashed, will say, yeah, that's true.
Everyone is so, it's, when you cannot get people to even, when someone tells you that they won an election that they lost, that's going to a whole nother level. And then you have people believing in you because they trusted in you and they thought they were doing something that was noble and they thought they were standing up for the right thing when they really weren't. You were leading them astray. And the common enemy is not us. It's not the media. I mean, listen, maybe it's someone else. It's not me. It's not you. To the best of my ability, I tell you the truth every night. And if I screw it up, I apologize and I correct it. But these people are being lied to and have been lied to for at least the past 5 years.
I like the sort of calm and unity-based tone of Don Lemon. We the media, we're not the enemy. He works for CNN. He's an anchor at CNN, the commie news network. I mean, the way that place transformed itself into an institution of pure anti-Trump propaganda over the last 4 years, that they should future generations should study this. It's actually remarkable. I mean, it's awful and it's wrong, but it's also pretty fascinating. They suppressed the Hunter Biden story. We have the tape, right, of from James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, which, we always have these tapes that come out. I keep telling us, yeah, CNN's super liberal and they lie to all of us. I mean, I understand that it is maybe amusing to hear them in the lies, but we're not learning anything new with this. Just putting that out there. Yeah, I can tell you, as I've said, what they're saying on the CNN editorial calls. I know what they're saying on the CNN editorial calls. Having worked there, I understand the mindset. But yeah, they actively suppressed the Hunter Biden story. That's what they did. And now they want us to believe that they're on our side. They're just there for truth, man. Yeah, they're just telling us the truth. But you know that this is all what we should expect, I suppose. And then there's Steve Schmidt. I got a question for you. Why is it that the people who are like all helping Democrats, are they Democrats now that are never Trumpers? Or, here you go, the dumbest political analyst on television at MSNBC, Steve Schmidt. Here he is, play 8.
We're in a fight now between an autocratic movement and a democratic movement. And the only way to win a fight is either through submission or through exhaustion. And here's the deal. And this is what I would say to the people that Tim described as deluded. They are in a party that has let out of the underworld a mixture of conspiracy theorists, white nationalists, white supremacists, militia groups, and all of those people are part of their Trump coalition, right? They are in the mainstream of the Trump coalition. Groups like the Lincoln Project, our view is very simple. There is no compromise with these people. They must be driven back into the underworld of American politics. They have no place at the table, and that any political party that wishes to associate with them has to become so toxic that they have no chance of winning elections.
So basically, I'm a Democrat. Well, the 95% of the Republican Party, 97% of the Republican Party, might even be more like 99 now, that supports Donald Trump. So they don't have a voice. They don't have a voice at the table. But Steve Schmidt does, as long as he's taking money from left-wing billionaires to pretend to be a conservative who makes anti-Trump ads. These people are ideological mercenaries. And you're going to see them. They're now going to be maneuvering. What is their role here in a possible post-Trump era? What are they going to be adding to all this? Well, they're Democrats. So I think their role should be that they get to go around and tell people the truth finally. They're actually Democrats now. I think Joe Scarborough does that. Or if he doesn't, it's laughable. He should. All right, these people have switched parties over Donald Trump. So when they used to talk about protecting unborn babies, for example, that was just all for show. They don't really believe that. Now they're Democrats. When they talked about the rule of law and supporting police and secure borders, and I don't mean they've done that recently. I'm talking about, go back 10 or 15 years with some of these guys. When they were, Romney, McCain, Republicans, when they would say those things, they didn't actually mean it. It didn't matter to them. It was just the thing they had to say that was of the greatest benefit to them at that moment in time. A lot of this going on. And just remember, we should not allow them to pretend that they weren't working for Democrats in this last election. They absolutely were. So they've gotten, in a way, they may have gotten what they want here. And I hope that this lawsuit out of Texas will get some traction. It's unlikely, folks. We are now at December 10th. The electoral college certification by the states happens on Monday. And then we have a few weeks, but it'll be over the holidays and won't be a lot going on. And then there'll be the actual electoral college official tally. And, or rather, I'm sorry, the Congress will certify the official tally. And at that point, that's all she wrote. So we have a few weeks here. There could be something, and I don't know if you want to use the term miracle, but there could be something unexpected that comes together here. But what's the downside? I keep telling my friends this, people who are conservatives, who view me as a fighter but reasonable, which I think is a nice. I'll take that I fight, but I try to be reasonable. What's the downside of fighting? Why not make this as difficult for the Democrats as possible? Why not drive them insane? Oppose, resist, right? Hashtag resist. Now it's our turn. Now the shoe is on the other foot. Now we're the ones that are going to say, slow it all down, attack with everything we've got, use every advantage we have within the system to defeat the people, the Democrats, Biden, who corrupted so thoroughly our entire political system.